Let me just start by saying this. Carol right now is taking a phone call. There is a Jewish tradition, and I'm going to push that we go with this, is that you never ask a mourner how they are. You avoid doing that to put them in that awkward position of having to answer because, like, how, what? That question doesn't make any sense. And that we always, or we try to follow the lead of the people who are mourning. And so we don't push. We just try to
Okay.
support to wherever they are. Go ahead, Carol.
We're having a green wedding. That means no casket, no big stone, that it's got trees all around it. So it's most in keeping with what we believe in. My husband would not consider cremation because of Auschwitz.
Right. Okay.
And this seemed like the right solution. And we're only having a graveside
Funeral.
funeral.
Yeah, you said wedding, which was an odd word.
But we're having people come on. There's several Zoom links which my daughter is giving to people,
Okay.
and we're having different Zoom links because a number of people who said they want to send wishes in Zoom, well, more than one Zoom thing could take. So she's taking care of all that,
Okay.
and some people are coming to the house, but he knew people from all over because he was in the Music Library Association, the Association, the American Association, the American Musicological Society, the Society for American Music. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
And W. Norton and Harvard. So they're taking care of all that. All I'm taking care of is not simply enduring, but trying to live.
Yeah.
Um, I was what I loved about the rabbi. He said the principal mourners should write what they want to say, but they have to write it because very often when they come to say it, they break up.
Yeah.
So they should then hand it to him and he will read it,
Okay.
which is why they have to write it. And that sort of takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
And I know that mourning is a very long process.
Yeah.
And that while it's really amazing to hear from all the people who loved and knew Mike, I've got to do my own thinking about all I know and loved about him and not get
Take care
overwhelmed
of.
by all. I mean, if it were left up to the people who wrote condolences, they would have to make him either a saint or the next pope. I don't know. And that's not the whole picture. And what I loved was him, all of him, not just the perfections.
And
Yes, sir.
how
Yes.
can we take care of you today, Carol?
Just knowing that you're there, knowing
Here,
that
yeah. Well,
the
Miss
world
Carol.
didn't disappear because he died. The world is still here. It is still filled with wonderful people I care about and who care about me. And I think that's very important.
Thank you for sharing yourself with us, Carol, and sharing Mike's. And if there's something you want to say to add in, to please to know. Also, just so people know, Jewish tradition is that a mourner that doesn't have to follow any of the rules. So, Carol, if you feel yourself filled up and you want to talk, and we're here and we'll make space.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If you're just joining, this is a Saturday service. I'm Rabbi Brian. I'm glad you guys are all here. Today is July 23rd, 2000 and I almost said 2013. Wow, that was 2022. I'm sitting here on Zoom. I got lots of people who have joined. If I hit the button, all the people who have joined, if you would all wave. And if you are one, there we go. And I'm going to go back to regular view. I do have some quick announcement. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. There we go. This is last Monday. Here's a photo. That's me and Jordan playing chess. And I have really good news. Jordan, do you want to tell them?
Oh, you cleaned my clock, dude.
I won. I actually won. I won, and we were both so sad, so excited that I won. It kind of just happened at the end. I was up a pawn for a long time, and then Jordan bounced back hard, and then I won, and it was delightful. So thank you. I've always liked to share. I wanted to start with. First of all, thank yous to all of you. To Maria for picking up last week's technology gumble. I wanted to thank all of you in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, so 3 weeks ago, I had COVID. 2 weeks ago, I ran a service that I entitled the 83 to 87% service because I didn't have any more than that in me. And I ran the service and I said, I'm not going to get an A today. I'm going to get a B, somewhere 83 to 87%. That's all I have. And so many of you were so supportive. And I got emails afterwards saying 83%'s the new 100. That was just great. I'm so glad you didn't do a perfect service. And I asked you guys if you would allow yourself the same grace that you allowed me. Would you allow yourselves to be able to do something at an 83% and just be all right with it? And we heard from people who said, well, some of you who said, I can get a C better than anyone's ever gotten a C before. And I will do a great job at being mediocre. And we kind of said that's a little bit odd that you may be trying too hard still. And then just to prove that it's okay to not be okay. Just to prove that it's okay to not be okay. Last week, I decided to change my shirt and Afia decided to take some wrong turns so that we could start the service late from a golf cart, which was humiliating, except for the fact that I knew that you guys were okay with the fact that shit happens and that you would all forgive me. And I'm looking at all you and I appreciate and I thank you all for forgiving me. And I'm wondering how you're doing on the other end of that. Are you able to afford yourself the same kindness that you as a group have been able to give to me? 2 weeks in a row, the week immediately after not doing a good job, I couldn't get the audio to hook up at all from North Carolina. Couldn't get it to work. And you guys were all forgiving and all wonderful and all open. And I'm wondering, how's your experience of being able to be as kind to yourself as you are able to be kind to me? And I thank you, Lee, for answering. And Eileen put thumbs up. And I got Ron has a thumb up and Rob has thumbs up. All the rest of you with thumbs, let me see on a scale of I've been really doing all right being kind to myself, or nah, that is not really my bag. Let me see where you are, and I'm going to move the camera over. Let me say hi to my friends. Hold on, I'm going to switch views. Let me see where your thumbs are, folks. Where are you on being kind to yourself? Yeah, we're I'd say that averages at about a 79%.
That's good too.
That's good, right? This is pass fail. This is all right. It's all right to not be perfect on it. Did anyone have in the last week a moment where you're super proud of yourself for not being perfect? Anyone have a moment last week that they...
Pasó. ¿Vino ayer, señor? No sé, ya no sé.
Okay.
As long as you speak Spanish.
We're okay. We're okay. Let me also say this is the Saturday service, and I was falling asleep last night, and I had this idea of what we're doing here is we're seeing what happens if we have a religious service and we dump out most or all of the liturgy, and we don't have a liturgical service, and we just see what happens when the group of people join together. Liturgy-less. Here's going to be a little piece of liturgy. See how this goes. My friend Kip is on. I don't see where you are. There you are. Hi, Kip. Kip did this wonderful thing, and our friend James. Oh, I have good news about James. This is just out. It's a book that he put together. It says on the back, I'll read you the back cover. It says, The Unlikely Success. This book contains the stories of 10 incarcerated persons from various backgrounds who dared to step out of criminal life and into the lives of personal power and transformation. These men prove that change is possible and prison isn't final. They are writing the next chapter of success. This is just newly available. We might be reprinting it. You can take a look if you look for The Unlikely Success and put in James Wilson. If you would like, and here's what I was mad at Kip about, was I've been writing letters to James for years now. And I sit at the kitchen table and I write him a note and I send it to him. And it's a very bizarre relationship where I don't, like, who does letter writing anymore?
Me.
Right? Not a lot of people do letter writing, and it's the only way that I'm in communication with James. And Kip did this wonderful thing, and Kip set James up on a tablet to be able to text. And Kip said, "Here's the thing. It's called Getting Out," which I misunderstood as Coming Out, which is a whole different app, by the way. Thank you for laughing, Jess. And the rest of you who care to laugh auditorially, I appreciate getting a little bit of that feedback. So he's on an app called Getting Out. And
GTL Getting Out.
And I got so mad at Kip. Like, Kip's not on the phone. I'm not talking, but Kip says, "Here's the link. You can now," and I get so mad. I'm like, "How dare you, Kip, ruin my schedule? How dare you authorize yourself to change the way that I communicate with James, because I sit at the table and that's how I write to," and I'm having this whole thing in my head. And then that moment of clarity, of grace, of something came in and goes, "You haven't even tried it yet. And you're already mad at Kip." Kip is doing right, from Kip's point of view, he's not there trying to do something nefarious or evil. He's trying to make this easier for James and I to communicate. And I got mad at him. And then yesterday, I make challahs on Friday, and Anne knows this. I continually totally change the recipe up to see if I can do something new. And for those of you who bake, I decided to do a Dutch oven to bake my challah, which doesn't really work on an egg bread because it kind of makes the whole thing into an egg souffle. It didn't make it crunchy. It made it moist. It was really good. Anyway, I have a stack of these challahs, and I go around my neighborhood handing out challahs to people. And Jane sends me a text saying, "I need you to save one of those challahs for my friend Grace." And I immediately get really pissed at her because I made these challahs to give out. But in my head, I made these challahs for me to give out, not for her to give out. And I'm thinking about my default setting towards being angry and pissed off just because it's not the way I thought things should be. I see a bunch of nods happening. Y'all do that too?
Yeah, I deal with that every day.
We do it all the time. We all get mad because that's not what I thought was supposed to happen. So, question. How do we better... I got tennis elbow, and I go to a PT now, a virtual PT who gives me these exercises to do, and I'm doing them to get better. So be a PT for me. What trick do you have? Here's something that I can do. Something that I can do that keeps me from getting upset is, what's your PT diagnosis? What do you do that helps you when somebody offers something and reality is about to not go the way you thought it should go? What's a thing? What's a technique? There's got to be some techniques, right? There's got to be something that works. Al, you got an idea? Something you can share with us?
Oh, it's wisdom that comes straight from you, Rabbi Brian. It's
Okay.
breathe and give myself a break before I choose my response.
Take a breath and
Yep.
and breathe before you choose a response. A great answer, Al.
Mhm.
Jeff, what do you got? What do you do that keeps you from reality's going like, here's how I think it's supposed to go, and then something else happens? What do you do to keep you from getting pissed off?
I laugh. Yeah. Because the reality is the reality, and the fact that I was not ready for the reality that is staring me in the face.
Right.
You laugh. You say, "Oh, it's irony. It's true irony."
Yeah.
The reality is this. My life is, wait, I've just gone into fiction, and now I better come back into reality.
There's a great quote from Byron Katie who says, "You can argue with reality all you want. It's all right, but you'll lose 100% of the time."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Is to get a little bit, I like that, Jeff, to get a little bit of perspective and say, okay, I guess this is what's next. I like it. Go ahead, Bob. What do you say, buddy?
Something I learned from you.
Okay.
I thank you.
You thank the universe when something goes wrong.
Right.
Well, it gives me an opportunity to experience something new and maybe make it better.
Yeah. There's a great quote from Krishnamurti who said, do you want to know my secret? And everyone got quiet and sat at attention. And he said, my secret is I don't mind what happens.
Touch from it.
There you go.
Right? Having a little bit of humor and detachment. I think another thing that's important to make this whole thing work is we need to have at least some awareness of what's going on. We need to be able to take a break from, I'm mad at Kip, I'm mad at Jane, and to be able to see, oh, why am I mad at them? And there's this great quote from Shantideva, and he said this, we get mad for two reasons. And I'm going to hold those up here. He says we get mad for two reasons. Either we do not get what we want, or we got what we don't want. And as so long as we're arguing with reality, we're going to lose. Okay. Good morning.
For me, it's part of the process.
Say that again, Jack.
For me, it's part of the process.
Part of the process is...
It's going to happen all the time, as long as we're human beings.
Yeah, we get attached to outcomes. This is how it's supposed to be. And what we're talking about is non-attachment. And there's a big word for it used in spiritual religious life, which is surrender. It has a very un-American connotation to it, but it's surrendering to reality, surrendering to what is, letting go, seeing that things change. Ron, you have something you want.
Ellis also has his hand up.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with Ron and then Ellis.
Oh, I'm just saying that I've had some big disappointments in my life to the point where I've learned that something new is going unexpected, and I deal with it by being curious. Okay, now what's going to happen?
Yeah, isn't that nice? Curiosity, a curious stand as opposed to a fixed stand. This is what's going to happen versus, I wonder what's going to happen. Thank you, Ron. Ellis, what do you got, my friend?
This is a beautiful example of the percentage thing that we talked about earlier.
The 83%. Go ahead. How's that?
Yeah, because sometimes it works seamlessly. It's just beautiful. And for me, it's oftentimes teachings from a format like we're on right now, like the things you say. You quoted Byron Katie. I love her stuff. Those kinds of things help me most of the time to not be upset. But then there's those times that you are upset, and then you get upset with yourself for being upset.
Yeah. We put ourselves into a spiral there. I'm mad that I'm mad that I'm mad. The Byron Katie quote, I found it. She says, "When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time." I'm going to put that on the screen. Was there another?
It comes down to acceptance sometimes too. Just acceptance.
Acceptance. Accept the world as it is. There's that. Anyone ever hear of this serenity prayer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I have an idea. I know it's Zoom and these things don't work very well on Zoom. But let's do a thing where we all say something together and it's not going to go well, but hear the words right here. God, can we all say it together? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change
the things I can.
and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Thy will, not mine, be done.
Amen.
Yeah.
And then there's the relapse version of that prayer.
Which is?
God grant me the courage to change the things I cannot accept.
Yeah. I heard that from Angela Davis. It was the first way I heard that. Here's a little out on this one, and we're going to use the God word for a moment. But here's something that I realized about the Serenity Prayer is if you look at the words are God. It's a petition. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. God, give me the courage. Okay. And then God, help me to give me the wisdom to know the difference. And here's this great thing is if you fully pray that prayer, if you fully pray the Serenity Prayer, and you don't have the wisdom to know the difference between the things you can accept and the things you can't accept, guess what? God didn't want you to have that wisdom yet.
Be true.
And so we can give ourselves a little bit of a off the hook. I got do we have a prayer list today? I think Joe might have been
I have it.
You have it. Joe is just a few announcements. First, it's our friend Marilyn's birthday. If Marilyn is in the chat, to wish Marilyn a happy birthday. Sometimes Marilyn's only chatting. Go ahead, Maria. You have our prayer list today.
Okay. Carol Ox for the loss of her dear husband, Michael, and for their 2 daughters. Kip, Rita S., Rita W., Vashti, Greta, Betsy M., Patsy, April, Abbas, Marzia and her parents, Peggy B., Chris B., Alan Williams, Marilyn G., Marilyn W., Alex and Scott as they move to their new house, Jim B., Lisa, Robin's friend, Paris, Emma, Roslyn, Carol, Patty and Ray Jones, Eileen and Frankie. And if there's anyone else, then you can add it in the chat.
Thank you, Maria. Let's take a minute of time right now at 15 seconds. We'll take 1 minute of silence. All right. Thank you all for joining in the minute of silence. And excuse me. Last week or a week, but I think it was last week. Last week I asked you to consider that this week I would be giving you that we had homework from the week before. This is a little complicated. I apologize. We had homework from the week before, and the homework from the week before was to be kind to yourself. And I asked you what grade. It was this professor, graduate school professor trick where you say to the students, you say to the class, you say, hey, whatever grade it is you want to get in this course, just tell me that right now, and then spend the course doing the amount of work that you think you should be doing in order to earn that grade. And we thought, what would happen if we did the same thing for our own lives? So how kind are you to yourself? And I asked you to give yourself a grade, and that we would be looking at our assignment today. Just so I have some sense looking at your faces, did we do this? Are we tracking, or did we, this is not a thing whatsoever, and move on to the next card, please, Rabbi? Okay, your faces are not being expressive enough for me. So how many people gave themselves a grade, and did you give yourself a grade? Did you give yourself a grade ahead of time? Yeah, so I got a lot of people who gave that. Well, thank you for doing the homework. I would give you an A for doing it, but the grade is all on you anyway. So, and that to me is a maybe a tangent part of it, but who the hell am I to grade you? And who is anyone actually to grade you? That doesn't make any sense. Who should be giving you a grade except for you? So how did you do in giving yourself a grade for self-kindness, and how did that help you in the last week to live into that grade? How'd you do in giving yourself a grade for last time, and how'd you do with living your way into that grade? And if this exercise did not prove to give us enough fodder to speak about, that's what happens when you do new material a lot of times. Is I've not done this exercise before. It seemed like a good idea on paper. How'd you do in giving yourself a grade? Okay.
I did really well. I gave myself an A, and I gave myself two times, I gave myself the biggest portion of bacon.
I think I might be the only rabbi to say this, but I'm really glad you won the bacon. You gave yourself, wait a second, Emily, you're trying to be kind to yourself, and you gave yourself the largest piece of bacon.
Yep.
Well, I don't think you need any reward from us. That's fantastic.
It is. It is. I did it twice.
And you look really, not everyone can see your face. You look pleased as punch about it.
I am.
Well done. And
I usually give it away. I usually always give my husband the biggest portion and the best of everything. So now I just did it myself.
Well, thank you. And did Wayne object at all, or Wayne's all right with it?
He never objects.
Okay. You've been giving yourself a lot of pressure, and you had your hand up. Do you have something you want to add for that about giving yourself a grade, and what was it? What happened?
Well, I won't get into details of what happened, but I set myself a pretty low bar because I know how much I beat myself up.
So you gave yourself a grade of what? What grade did you?
I gave myself a C.
A C. And were you able to get yourself a C?
Yes, which ends up being like an A.
Yes.
This is like that we have some magic going on here. So you got the C, which is like getting an A.
Yeah.
Thank God for low expectations. That's wonderful. I love that. But how else are you going to be kind to yourself except by being kind to yourself? And if realizing I'm not really up for this is a better stance than I really suck because I'm not up for this. I love it, Anne. That's great. Eileen, what do you have?
The meditations mentioned Eileen and Frank, so it's my anniversary, 28th anniversary with Frank. And both my sisters have been widowed in the past 6 months. So my sister from Virginia is up visiting. She's staying with my twin sister. And, you know, a little bit, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to be happy.
Yeah.
and they were, you know, it's tearful. It's just sad. But I always shoot for the stars, so I gave myself an A+. And then I did. I was with them, and I said, I gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow.
So wait, you
know,
gave yourself an A+, and I'm going to be that
2
kind
weeks
to
ago,
myself.
whenever.
Yeah.
I think you should shoot for the stars.
So you gave yourself an A+,
I'm worth it.
and then you were able to actually live your way into that. This feels like I love that. That's just wonderful, Eileen. I mean, I'm sorry for the heartbreak, but look at you taking care of yourself. You go, girl. That's wonderful. Yeah. It's not impossible to take care of ourselves, is it?
Nope.
It's just maybe not native our first instinct. Go ahead, Stephen. You got something.
And then we had the follow-up question to the challenge, which was, did you forgive yourself for not getting the grade that you expected?
Right. Did you give yourself a grade, Stephen?
I think I did pretty well this week.
You did. And then forgive yourself even for not getting that grade that you thought you'd be able to get. This gets back to the theme of where you guys were all able to forgive me and forgive me my trespasses, as I hope that you all can forgive yourselves the trespasses you make against you. That sounded weird. But I have a stack of things I wanted to try. I have a stack of little ones, and they have the letter A in the corner, which means I think these can all be handled as just quick announcements. So the first announcement says this. It says, can you imagine yourself as already forgiven? Can you imagine yourself as already forgiven? There it is. It's a religious concept that you are already forgiven. There's the idea of grace that goes along with that. Okay, so that's the announcement. I don't want to say much more. You're already forgiven. Here's one. Oh, at the end of this hour, there are going to be breakout groups. Please go to any group that you want. Just because you've been going to Deep Dive for a long time doesn't mean that you have to continue to go to Deep Dive. If you've been in the poetry room, it doesn't mean you are locked into the poetry room. You're allowed to move rooms. Okay, nice. Announcement. Hey, you might find that you're depressed. That's okay. I thought that would be an important announcement to make in case you're having a really hard time, to just hear it's okay. We all get depressed. We all have hard times. That being said, it goes with this related announcement. Hi, I'm a rabbi. I want to remind you the importance of hope. Seriously, folks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hope is really important. Larry,
I was hoping for hope.
Larry says this: I would rather have hope and be occasionally wrong than live in despair and always be right. This is not an easy time to have hope, friends. This is not an easy time to have hope. I beg you, search it out. Plant little seeds of hope where you can, because we need it. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yeah. Please,
Amen.
Notice your conversations with people. We are in a desperately hope. Give me the word. Yes. We're missing a lot of hope. We're missing a lot of hope. Okay. 2 other announcements. Please join us on the Clubhouse. We just featured our friend Alicia at mn.rotb.org. You can get onto the Clubhouse there. It's a nice little place to go in between our Saturday services. There's conversation that's going on. Oh, and Bruce and Eileen, we wanted to ask you if you might possibly be people who we do the spotlight on. You can say no, but to do. And then I had one other announcement, which is basically is just this one. It says, "Be kind and don't be a dick." Just like it also felt like a thing that a rabbi needed to say. If you find yourself being a dick to people, please just stop that and apologize immediately. Thank you very much. Okay, good job, everybody. We're doing a good, lovely through the question. Ready for a new thought?
Wait a minute, Rabbi.
Yes, Meg.
Would you please repeat Larry's statement?
Yeah, I would be glad to, Meg.
Thank you.
I would rather have hope and be occasionally wrong than live in despair and always be right.
Thank you.
I'd like to change Larry's statement. I realize he's your best friend. But to me, hope without action is despair.
Hope without action is despair. Say a little more. How would you change the phrase then?
Well, I mean, Larry sort of talks about the opposite of hope is despair. But I think hope itself is despair unless you do something about it.
So can I say that maybe that hope is a two-part process?
Yes.
That
okay.
first you have to decide to have hope, and which in and of itself is partially an action, but then you have to live it. You have to. It's not just deciding to have hope. It's deciding to have hope and living into the hope. Does that work a little bit better, Maria?
Well, I would argue that perhaps the action might come before it, and that you perhaps then have the hope that it will help or change something.
That we start with the action of hope. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Oh, and there's a book, Ann Swanson is holding up a book called Active Hope, How to Face the Mess You're In, Uncomplicated Resistance and Creative Power by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone. I'm taking it that's a recommendation from you, Ann. Thank you for giving us a recommendation. Yeah. How about this, Maria? How about we take a week to really think about hope and think about what we do? And I will say in Larry's definition, which is not in what's written here, is he said that the first part is that we have to decide to have hope. And he says that decision is like an incision that we have to cut out. Decide means to split, that we have to cut out despair, that the beginning of hope is deciding to cut out despair. And so maybe for this week, for our homework, let's just notice hope and despair and how they jump up and dance together in our own heads. And we'll come back next week and talk about it. Good? Yeah, Kip?
So, pardon me, you used the word dance again, and it's prompting me to say something I wanted to say earlier.
Yeah.
I've heard surrender described. I study with some folks who follow Sufi Islam, and dance and surrender are both pretty big in those disciplines. And I've heard it described that surrender is really being willing to dance with the divine or with reality. If you're not a good dancer and you're just deciding to do your own thing, it's not going to go well. But if you can surrender and try to feel into the dance that you're being called to dance, you'll know what to do. And I think for myself in that practice, when I do have things like despair or other things that I don't know what to do with, if I can go into that surrender point, I'll know what the right thing to do. And then it does cause action that is done effectively and without heat, and it is very, very effective.
I will say one of the things that keeps me from surrendering, though, is my ego.
Absolutely.
And that goes
Absolutely.
to, like, I couldn't surrender to the stupid app you sent. It was just in real time. I don't want my reality to be changed at all. That's the opposite of surrender. I'm really noticing how tight I am with, no, that's what I thought it should be. Well, that's nice.
But if we're willing to open up and maybe be led by something greater into even something better, then that's the core of surrender from my perspective.
Yeah, but then it's not then I'm not the one picking the destination, buddy.
But you get to dance. You get to
right.
lead the move a little bit here and there.
Right.
But you don't always lead every move.
You're incorrect about that. Right. How many of us think surrender is a great idea, or it's a good thing that other people should be doing, or it's a good thing that I should have been able to have done, but I don't really want to have to learn my way into surrendering?
It's one of the things that you don't have any choice about.
I don't have a choice about it. That would. Yes.
Oh, you sure do. You can actually fight against surrender your whole life.
Well,
I've seen folks do it.
Yes. We have Bob and then Rita. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I think sometimes.
And then I got you, Shmuley. Go ahead.
I think sometimes I was thinking about it. If I reach out for my cup of coffee, I hope I can get it to my mouth. Okay. If I do that, I successfully. But in the meantime, if I don't and it spills, then I didn't achieve what my hope was. And so I think that action is very much a part of hope. And that I think that most of us, when we look at doing something, we have a hope that it's going to be successful.
Correct. Thank you, Bob. Rita, it looks like you were in a hospital, my friend.
I'm in the rehab center.
Okay.
And this is just, all this conversation is just too timely for me not to talk.
Go for it.
I had a hip transplant surgery on July 11th. And the plan was that there'd be a couple of days of healing at the hospital, and then I'd go home. And after a few weeks, I'd be able to dance. The word dance is what got me. Well, what happened was a nerve was irritated. And though my hip is happy, I can't walk because I can't put weight on my foot. The nerve pain is excruciating.
Yeah.
Like my foot's on fire, my leg's on fire. And so I'm here, and nobody knows how long it's going to last. So I have been working with all these issues of, instead of surrender, I think of the word acceptance.
That's a good word.
And what I try to do, first of all, I try to see the situation comedy aspect, just because that's my sense of humor has always helped me. And also just what can I learn from this? I've more or less most of the time turned it over to the infant, whatever you want to call that which is bigger than us and unable to describe other than with a metaphor. And so now I'm learning what are the good things about being totally dependent, which is not a fun thing to learn.
It's a hard lesson.
Oh boy.
It's not one we want to all sign up for. It's no fun to be helpless, to be dependent.
And in pain. Neither one of those are fun.
Yeah.
But I'm learning what meds Oh, and all these meds, I never took pills. And now I'm, they bring me a little thing filled with pills, and I just take them, whatever they may be. So I am in the process of acceptance and trying to learn and look at me. What can I say?
You're here. You're here, and
I'm
you're
here.
up for the
I'm
lessons.
pleased I got here. This is the first Zoom I have been able to do.
Well,
and
thank
Zoom
you
has
for
been my
joining.
social life since the pandemic.
Thank you for
So
making
hello,
it
everybody,
happen, Rita.
and thank you for your prayers. And I'll try to be at Shekinah tomorrow.
Wonderful. And then let me make the announcement. If you would like to do more God stuff and talk quantum physics, put some note in the chat or send an email, and we'll get you onto the Shekinah group email list where they talk about lots of God stuff is discussed. Let's do some quick rounds from Shmuley, Steve, and Ron.
One thing that is interesting to me is the idea of dancing, because it encompasses many religious and philosophical views. I mean, you have dancing in the Jewish tradition and other traditions as well, even in the Christian tradition. But anyways, that reminded me of something that people here in Puerto Rico saying. It's you don't always dance with the person you want to dance with.
Right.
And there are times that I get things from life that I don't like a bit, but I have to continue dancing. Otherwise, I'm going to miss all the fun.
I like that image of the dance. It's that we're not totally dependent. It's up to us. And Kip, thank you for helping to bring that one in, and Shmuley for elaborating. Go ahead, Stephen, and then Ron.
Yeah, my philosophy is similar. I just use different language. I choose to be naively optimistic.
That sounds like hope. I like it.
Yeah, I would rather expect the best and be disappointed than be constantly expecting the worst and be surprised when things work out.
I like that. That's a lovely. Go ahead, Ron.
Amen.
Like Rita, I choose acceptance over surrender. And I think they're different.
Okay.
When I accept that this is the way things are right now, it's more liberating to me than it is if I just surrender.
Okay. I wish we had a different word. The word surrender, I get what it's going for, but it's got such bad connotations to it of giving up. And it's not just about giving up. It's about giving in, maybe.
How about
hold
trust?
On. Say it again.
How about trust?
Trust outside of one's own self. I like that, Betsy. And Anne, you have something to add. Thank you, Betsy.
The years I spent studying Vedanta, I had so much trouble with the word surrender. I mean, it was often used, surrender to your guru, surrender to, and I decided, and for women, it is really a problem. Surrender to the man. I mean, so I decided that the way I can do surrender is I surrender only to the divine.
Amen. Okay.
That I will do.
Amen.
But only to the divine.
Thank you, Anne. Michael, go ahead, Carol.
I just think that the metaphor I have for surrender is when you surrender in love. Yeah. And that is you finally put down all your guards. You're really totally open with the person you love. And that's a joyous surrender.
Amen. That's a beautiful thing. Michael?
I love that phrase, surrender to the divine. I think that's the way to go. And Mike, I have a question. If we surrender to the divine, do we even need hope? Like, does hope even matter?
It might be a byproduct of having surrendered to the divine, is we might get hope. Let's experiment. Let's find out. Here's what we're going to do. We have 49 people who are live watching right now, and there's about 50 people who watch it on recording, and there is another 50 people who watch it on YouTube and Facebook. which might be the people who watch it on recording. So I might be double adding people in there. Let's all experiment in this next week with hope and surrender and acceptance and find out what we find out. And then report back if there's something that we've come up with about surrender and hope and acceptance. And if we don't come up with something that we want to share with the group, at least we can have learned something ourselves.
I'm smiling now a lot because this is what the spiritual life is all about.
The spiritual life is about surrender. Yeah. Oh, hold on. I have a quote over here. Here it is. It's one of my favorites. I made it into note cards. It's from Taifor Abu Yaziz al-Bastami, and he said this. For years I would say, do this, give me that. When I reached the shores of wisdom, I said, God be mine and do what you want. For years I would say, do this and give me that. When I reached the shores of wisdom, I said, God be mine and do what you want. Okay.
More acceptance.
More acceptance, less filling. Let's do it. Kip, go ahead, bud.
Rabbi, I don't know if this is a time or not, but I'm intrigued to understand more from Ron and others about the difference between acceptance and surrender.
So that's why I gave it as a homework assignment, Kip, because I think we all could use some time to seep in and see what we can see as the difference between the two. They are different words. There's some differences in there. I'm not sure we got that quite yet. So let's. Yeah. So here's the next. Yeah, it's. Wanted to share something with you. I wanted to share a lot of things with you, and I'm looking at which one I'm going to share. This one. It's going to be this one. That's what it's going to be. At what point, and I don't know the answer to this, at some point, have I not the ability to add thoughts into my mind? Question mark. And let me say that again. At some point, have I not the ability to add some new thoughts into my mind? I'm going to have thoughts. They're going to happen. Things are going to happen. But at some point, don't I have the ability to add a little bit of another thought in?
Yes.
I think the answer to that is yes. We all, yeah. At some point, we have the ability to add. So if we find ourselves beating the snot out of ourselves because we're on a golf cart running towards our services and we're running supremely late. Just example, just pulled that out of my mind. At some point when we're beating the snot out of ourselves for that, do we not have the ability to choose another thought and to say, you know what, I'm going to be kind to myself despite my messing up? Now, don't we always have the ability? Isn't that, maybe that's what grace is that we always have the ability to choose that rather than beating ourselves, that we always have the ability to add another thought in? Do we not have the ability to add in a little extra compassion?
Grace. Is it faith or is it trust? Thinking about teaching, you've got 9,000 stacks of material around you. You've got the stack you planned for today. You've got the rest of the stuff. You never know where we're going to take you.
Nope.
And you just open your mouth and trust that what you're going to need to get through this hour is somewhere in those piles.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we all have faith in, I guess, do we all have faith and trust that we have what we need to get through what we have to get through? I think that is a little different than what I was trying to get at, Stephen. So let me try saying what I was going at again.
Okay.
Don't we have the ability to, we did the thing a long time ago. I had these two little stick figures about observe and judge. And we said that we're always going to observe things. We don't have a choice about that we're going to notice certain things. But we do have the ability to add in that we also judge things, but we have the ability. No. That's not it at all. I'm taking that one all the way back. Okay. Do we have the ability to control our thoughts at least a little? That's the question.
Work at it.
Do we have the ability to at least choose? We can't choose whether or not we trip on the way out of the supermarket, but we do have the ability to choose our reaction to how to the reality of having had tripped. Go ahead, Carol.
All you're basically saying is, can we change? Yep. Can we finally have the thoughts or feelings that will carry us in a situation that we hadn't planned for?
That's the question. And I think the answer's got to be yes. I can't imagine otherwise. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we don't have the ability. So if we do have the ability, ought we not practice it and get better at it until we dare actually be good at having some surrender and having some grace? I like that.
For me, it requires a constant work on blending my mind with my heart.
It takes constant work of blending your mind and your heart. Yeah.
I think we can prove this to ourselves, Brian. I'm
yeah,
been thinking that this whole hour I've been thinking about a book I read recently on Stoicism by a man named Stephen Batchelor, and he talks about practicing his philosophy. And one of the practices that he uses, we talked earlier in this conversation about things that we do to remind ourselves that we can grow and change. One of his practices is to intentionally put himself in an environment which he finds challenging for him because he can't control it. He will put himself intentionally in that place with the objective of consciously letting go of his need to control it. And I thought, what a brilliant thing! Like take an hour some morning and go try to find a parking spot at a busy shopping mall and just notice what's going on. You know, like I can't find a parking spot. That causes me anxiety. So I go and I just do that to practice actually going with the flow. I just thought that was a brilliant suggestion, which allows us to prove to ourselves that it's possible for us to do this.
And I think thank you, Hugh. And that gives us our homework. Our homework is to practice this intersection between surrender and hope and frustration and outlook. Folks, we're coming up at 9:00, so I'm going to thank everyone for being here. Alex, I'm going to hostify you. Thank you for making me for all showing up, for all being here, for being, I'm going to tell, there's a very dear little story about Murray who prays every day, God, please let me win the lottery. And then 36 years after he first says the prayer, he prays again, God, please let me win the lottery. And he hears the voice, and the voice says, buy a ticket. You are all ticket holders. You are all showing up to care for your spiritual religious life. And that's a beautiful thing. And thank you all for showing up in the ways that you do. I'm going to stop the recording after I have everybody wave and say goodbye. Everyone wave, say goodbye to all of our friends.